Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, we are looking at NVIDIA quietly turning into a $250 billion bank just to finance its own customers. Plus, Google has a $94 billion secret locked up in orbit, and Silicon Valley is basically tearing itself apart over who controls the AI code that runs your life.
Yeah, it is an absolute wild day on the wire.
It really is. So let's look past the headlines today. We are pulling directly from the raw wire of top trending posts on X to cut through all the noise for you. Our mission on this deep dive is to spot the second order effects, to figure out not just what is happening, but how it's happening, and, exactly who is actually making or losing money in this chaotic market.
And, to do that, we really need to start at the absolute top of the capital stack. Because what we're seeing right now is that tech giants are no longer just building products. They're acting like sovereign banks and nation states.
Right. There's a bombshell report from Bloomberg at Business on X that perfectly captures this. NVIDIA is reportedly in discussions to provide a financing guarantee of about $250 billion.
Which is just a staggering amount of money.
Let that number sink in. $250 billion. This is to help OpenAI lease computing capacity from a massive data center project. We're talking about SoftBank's planned $500 billion 10-gigawatt facility in Ohio, which, by the way, is slated for 2028.
And this is where you have to take a step back and really question the consensus narrative. What's fascinating here is the sheer panic-level scale of capital required for frontier AI right now.
Yeah, it's unprecedented.
It is. But if you look at this critically, we're looking at vendor financing on a sovereign scale. NVIDIA is stepping way beyond just making chips,
Wait, hold on. I need to challenge this, because if you're a company like NVIDIA with a multi-trillion-dollar valuation and basically insatiable demand for your product, why would you ever need to finance your own buyers? That sounds like a massive red flag.
It does.
Are you saying they are artificially inflating their own demand?
That is exactly the cynical but totally necessary question to ask. If NVIDIA is essentially acting as a bank, right, guaranteeing loans for its own customers, so those same customers can turn around buy NVIDIA's own chips to fill a SoftBank data center, well, what happens when the music stops?
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, we actually saw this exact mechanism play out during the telecom crash of the early 2000s. Companies like Cisco financed their own buyers to keep revenue growth looking parabolic. When the buyers couldn't pay, the revenue vanished, but the debt remained.
Right. The debt doesn't just disappear.
Exactly. So is this a sustainable ecosystem, or is this a dangerous circular debt loop? If compute demand ever softens, that $250 billion guarantee transforms overnight from a genius sales tactic into a massive corporate liability.
So NVIDIA is tying up billions in physical concrete data centers just to keep the AI flywheel turning. But they aren't the only tech giant realizing that the future of digital dominance actually requires massive, illiquid physical infrastructure.
Not at all. Look at Google.
Exactly. Just look at what Google is doing in space. At Holmars highlighted a wild disclosure today. Alphabet just revealed a $94.1 billion stake in SpaceX, following SpaceX's June 2026 IPO. Ticker SPCX for you following the market.
Which is just crazy to see finalized.
It is. That's roughly a 6% stake. Google invested way back in 2015 at a $12 billion valuation. Now it's marked to a SpaceX market cap of $1.5 trillion.
It looks incredible on a headline, right? A cosmic payday. But again, if we connect this to the bigger macro picture, you have to look at the lockup reality.
What does that mean in this context? Because $94 billion is $94 billion, right?
Not if you can't touch it.
Fair point.
A lockup period is a legally binding agreement preventing insiders from selling their shares immediately after an IPO. The SEC filings actually show that 80 billion of those Alphabet shares have short-term sale restrictions.
Whoa.
Yeah, and another 14.1 billion is locked up entirely until the third quarter of 2027. So you have one of the most powerful consumer tech monopolies on Earth, holding almost $100 billion of restricted, highly illiquid stock in a space and defense monopoly on its balance sheet.
So it's essentially trapped capital.
Exactly, trapped capital. When mega caps hold this much trapped value, it distorts their enterprise value and limits their actual capital agility. It's paper wealth until they can actually distribute it.
So it makes their balance sheet look invincible, but they can't use that money to fight off an antitrust lawsuit or, acquire a competitor tomorrow.
Spot on.
Well, speaking of capital circling the wagons, Let's look at a blast from the past that's making waves on the wire today regarding physical infrastructure here on Earth. At TechCrunch is reporting that Uber is investing $100 million into Atoms.
Oh, the Travis Kalanick news.
Yep. For you listening who might not know, Atoms is the robotics company run by former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick. This is part of a massive $1.7 billion funding round. Atoms recently bought Anthony Lewandowski's startup Pronto, and they are focusing heavily on industrial AI and physical automation for things like mining and transport.
And Ben Horowitz just joined the board, right?
Yes, he did.
It is the ultimate Silicon Valley reunion tour. 8 years after his highly publicized, scandalous 2017 exit, Kalanick is back, and he's got Uber's backing and Andreessen Horowitz in his corner. They are supposedly building OEM-agnostic autonomy tech.
Okay, translate that for us. OEM agnostic.
So OEM stands for original equipment manufacturer. OEM agnostic just means they are building self-driving software that could be slapped onto any brand of machinery. A Caterpillar dump truck, a John Deere tractor, a random freight train, it doesn't care who built the hardware.
That sounds incredibly lucrative if it works.
If it works, yes. But here is the skeptical read on this entire deal. Is this truly a play on revolutionizing industrial automation? Or is this just the Silicon Valley elite protecting their own?
You think it's just insider networking?
Well, we have a persistent tendency in the Valley to aggressively recycle controversial founders. The capital class trusts who they know. When you see a $1.7 billion round for a company buying up old startups with familiar faces, you have to wonder.
Yeah, is it the tech or the connections?
Exactly. Is it less about the specific tech they're building and more about the gravitational pull of established insider networks keeping the money in the family?
And keeping the money in the family is getting harder because the underlying technology driving these valuations is fundamentally mutating. We are shifting rapidly from the chatbot era into the agent economy.
It's moving incredibly fast.
It is, and it's sparking a massive war over who actually controls the code. Let's break down how fast this is moving, because it's not just theoretical anymore. First, look at what Sam Altman at Summit just posted. He showed off ChatGPT work running on GPT 5.6.
That demo was insane.
Right. From a single prompt on his phone, the AI accessed his full chat history, figured out ideas for a long weekend trip with 8 friends, planned the top 3 options, built a full-stack coordination website for the 9 of them to vote, made the reservations, and drafted the final email.
One single prompt to do the work of a travel agent, a web developer, and a personal assistant.
Exactly. But it gets weirder. At the Soch, you pointed out that regular users are literally letting ChatGPT's voice mode wait on hold for them to cancel home insurance or negotiate their internet bills.
I love that.
Just imagine that. You tell your phone, hey, go fight with Comcast for 2 hours and get my bill lowered, and a localized robot voice just sits on hold, navigating the phone tree and negotiating with a human customer service rep on your behalf.
Which is hilarious and incredibly efficient for a consumer. But the third example is where the enterprise stakes really come into play.
Yes, at Riley Brown showcased Claude's new Opus 5 Excel extension. It built a complete multi-tab NVIDIA financial model in 37 minutes.
Yes, 37 minutes.
Yeah. It pulled from SEC filings, built live formulas, ran a DCF valuation, and hallucinated 0 figures. And just to clarify for anyone who doesn't spend their life in Excel, a DCF is a discounted cash flow valuation.
Right, a staple for analysts.
It's a complex financial model used to estimate the value of an investment based on its expected future cash flows. It requires deep contextual understanding of accounting and market conditions. The fact that an AI did it in 30 minutes flawlessly is terrifying for Wall Street analysts.
The efficiency is undeniable. It's breathtaking, honestly. But this raises an immediate glaring alarm about reliability and liability.
How so?
Well, if an AI is scraping SEC filings and waiting on hold with Comcast, fine. If he makes a mistake, your internet bill is wrong. But when we get to enterprise deployments, we have a massive governance gap.
Oh, I see.
Johanna Kojima brought this up on The Wire, and it was heavily backed by state machine expert David K. Piano. They point out that long-running agents require immutable event logs.
Okay, let's pause there. For those of us who aren't state machine experts, what exactly is an immutable event log, and why does an AI agent need one?
Think of it like the black box flight data recorder on a commercial airplane. If a plane crashes, investigators don't want a vague summary of the flight. They need a tamper-proof, second-by-second record of exactly what every sensor and pilot did.
Makes sense.
And immutable means it cannot be altered or deleted. Right now, a lot of AI systems use what's called partial tracing or lossy checkpointing. They basically take snapshot summaries of their work just to save memory.
Which means if something goes wrong, you don't actually know how it went wrong.
Precisely. If an autonomous agent is handling your corporate finances or managing a physical supply chain, you cannot rely on a summary. You need an aviation-style flight data recorder for the AI's logic.
Because if it crashes, it takes the company down with it.
Exactly. So I have to ask, when one of these autonomous agents accidentally zeroes out a corporate bank account or triggers a flash crash in the stock market because it misunderstood a pricing signal, who is legally responsible?
That is the trillion-dollar legal question.
Is it the developer who built the agent, the massive company providing the underlying language model, or the end user who wrote the one-sentence prompt?
And that exact question of control, safety, and liability is what brings us to the bitter industry divide playing out in real time. If you're sitting there wondering why you should care about open weights, think of it like the recipe for Coca-Cola.
That's a great way to look at it.
Do you publish the recipe so anyone in the world can tweak it, improve it, and build on it? Or do you lock it in a vault so your enemies can't use it to destroy your market share? That is the open versus closed AI civil war.
And the battle lines are officially drawn.
Completely. At Rock, Guillermo Rauch, the CEO of Vercel, just proudly co-signed the Open Weights and American AI Leadership Letter. He's standing alongside Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, and over 50 others.
A massive coalition.
Right. And he compares open weights to the open source software movement of the 1980s. The idea that democratizing access to the code creates a rising tide that lifts all boats. Simultaneously, we see at NVIDIA launching the Open Secure AI Alliance with IBM, Cisco, Hugging Face, and SpaceX.
They are heavily backing the open side.
NVIDIA even contributed their NOOA agent harness framework to help open source developers optimize agent safety.
It really feels like a massive, unstoppable coalition, but you have to look at who is intentionally not in the room. What's fascinating here is the lone holdout.
Yeah, Anthropic.
Exactly. Andrew Kern pointed out on X that Anthropic, the makers of Claude, is standing completely alone against the entire rest of the industry. David Sachs is publicly accusing them of shifting to indirect restrictions. He claims they are trying to limit model power and restrict users under the guise of safety.
What is Anthropic's actual argument here, though? Are they just trying to be a monopoly?
Well, we obviously aren't taking a side here, but it's crucial to understand Anthropic's argument, because if you strip away the Silicon Valley tech drama, this is actually a massive geopolitical tension.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Anthropic is claiming that Chinese labs are actively using API access to distill Western models like Claude. Basically, they are using the smart American model to automatically train their own domestic models, resulting in highly capable foreign models like Kimi.
Oh, wow. So they are using our tech to build their tech.
Right. Anthropic views this as a literal national security issue. So you have this incredible irony. The rest of the industry claims open access ensures U.S. dominance through rapid innovation, while Anthropic is standing there claiming that open access is literally handing the keys to our greatest geopolitical rivals.
And those rival models are getting impossibly heavy, which is creating its own insane hardware arms race. At ZeroX0 posted a breakdown of the new Chinese model, Kimi K3, which just took the #1 spot on the front-end code arena, actually beating Claude Fable 5.
Which is wild.
But to do it, Kimi K3 has 2.8 trillion parameters. To run that at a standard precision like BF16, it would need 5.6 terabytes of memory.
Let's break down why that's an absolute nightmare. The true war in AI isn't just about how smart the math is, it's about the physical physics of pushing data through a silicon chip without it melting. Memory bandwidth is the ultimate bottleneck.
Right, which is why ZeroX0 notes they are having to use massive hardware hacks. They are using REAP observation to rank hot experts, and they are heavily relying on NVFP4 quantization just to squeeze the model down to run on 700 gigabytes of VRAM. I'm going to need you to translate that into English. What is NVFP4 quantization?
Okay, think of quantization like compressing a massive uncompressed 4K movie down to a standard 1080p MP4 file so it actually fits on your phone's storage.
Okay, that makes sense.
You lose a tiny bit of pixel detail, and the colors might not be as perfectly sharp, but the human eye barely notices. And more importantly, it plays flawlessly without crashing your phone. That's what they are doing to AI models. They are artificially rounding off the mathematical precision, basically compressing the model so we can actually fit onto the limited physical memory of the graphics cards. But even with all that compression, 700 gigabytes of VRAM is an absurd amount of expensive hardware just to run one single model.
So if the hardware cost to run these foundational models is becoming this absurd, I would assume that AI is going to eat the indie software market alive? I mean, if
Uh,
it takes billions to train and run this stuff, how can a lean startup possibly compete? You'd think only the tech giants win here.
you really would think so. But the macro data says the exact opposite.
It really does. At Gregesenberg dropped some fascinating numbers from Stripe Atlas on the wire today. New company formation is actually up 130% year over year.
That's a huge spike.
And here's the kicker. 63% of them are solo-founded. AI-native solo startups are generating 2.3 times the revenue by month 24 compared to legacy startups. Wow. The old playbook of spinning up massive auto-generated SEO websites is completely dead because ChatGPT just gives the user the answer directly.
Huh.
But these leaner, faster solo startups are absolutely thriving.
This is exactly what I mean by looking at the second-order effects.
Yeah.
The result of these trillion-dollar AI models isn't that the giants take over every app. The result is the absolute death of the bloated 50-person startup team.
Because they just aren't necessary anymore.
Right. You no longer need to raise $10 million just to hire an HR department, a junior dev team, and 3 project managers to ship a basic SaaS product. A single founder with a hyper-capable AI agent can out-execute a legacy startup. The leverage has completely flipped from capital back to the individual operator.
So what does this all mean for us as humans? If small, lean teams are the future, and AI is advancing in ways that give single individuals the power of an entire corporation, how is the human mind adapting to this reality?
It's a huge psychological shift.
It is, and this brings us to a really thought-provoking post from Wharton professor at Kalanick. He points out a massive blind spot in our culture. Science fiction completely missed how AI actually developed.
It really did. We were completely primed by pop culture to expect these conscious, self-aware superintelligences. We expected the culture minds from Ian Banks novels or Lemsgolem 14th or even Skynet.
Yeah, we expected AI to arrive as a localized thinking entity with motives and a personality. We expected a robot we could talk to.
Exactly.
But instead, what did we actually get? We got statistical models predicting the next word in a sequence. It's literally just math. It's a language model that somehow unexpectedly excels at writing Python code, building discounted cash flow models, and negotiating with your cable company.
It's weirdly prosaic, lacking any actual soul, but infinitely more useful than a humanoid robot.
Right. And because reality has turned out to be so much stranger and less cinematic than fiction, founders today are having to actively unbrainwash themselves from an industry dogma. You have to realize that the expected path, the one everyone is writing think pieces about, is often completely wrong.
Yes, and that ties perfectly into a conversation highlighted by @JasonFried between David Senra and DHH on the 37 Signals philosophy. These are the guys who built Basecamp in 380 hours.
Incredible.
And they maintained a strict no-office remote culture long before it was cool. And @DHH shared this amazing backstory. Back in 2006, Jeff Bezos bought a minority stake directly from their personal shares.
This is such a crucial detail, and it is the true philosophical takeaway for anyone building a business right now. That non-monetary gift of confidence from Bezos and the financial security of taking some chips off the table gave them the power to reject the traditional venture capital pressure.
Right, because usually when you take VC money, you are forced onto a treadmill.
Exactly. But because of how they structured it, they didn't have to artificially scale just to hit a VC fund's return metrics. In a world that is hyper-capitalized and rushing toward massive scale and consensus thinking, maintaining artificial constraints, intentionally saying no to capital, and refusing to grow for growth's sake is often the ultimate way to retain optionality.
Constraint is the ultimate alpha.
It's the ultimate flex, saying no to the machine. And I want to close the cultural loop today with a really fun historical nugget from The Wire that ties all this futuristic tech right back to our human roots.
Oh, the Viking Tech post.
Yes. Jack Dorsey, posted the phrase Viking tech in response to a viral history of Bluetooth. It turns out Bluetooth was developed by Ericsson engineers in the 1990s, and they named it after Harald Bluetooth, the Viking king who historically united Denmark and Norway.
That is so cool.
And the logo itself that we see on our phones every single day, it is literally a combination of the ancient Viking runes for the letters H and B. Just as King Harald united the warring tribes, this technology was designed to unite our disparate devices.
It's a perfect metaphor. We get so caught up in the $250 billion valuations, the parameter counts, and the quantization hacks that we forget technology is fundamentally just human infrastructure. Whether it's a Viking rune or an AI agent, It's ultimately about connection and leverage.
Let's bring it all together for you. We are watching a world where giants like NVIDIA and Google are making quarter-trillion-dollar moves and holding near monopolies in space, struggling with trapped capital. We're seeing AI agents autonomously take over our workflows, sparking massive geopolitical industry wars over whether to open source the code or lock it down.
Huge stakes.
But at the exact same time, because of that very technology, the lean, independent solo founder is uniquely positioned to thrive in the chaos. The 50-person startup is dying. The hyper-leveraged individual is king.
And if you want a prediction for tomorrow, based on what we're seeing on the wire today, tomorrow expect to see massive legacy enterprise software companies begin to truly panic.
The dinosaurs are in trouble.
Big time. As autonomous agents become fully capable of doing complex procurement and deep data modeling for free, enterprise SaaS margins are going to violently compress. We will see a massive rotation of capital away from those bloated tech dinosaurs and directly toward these hyper-efficient solo founders.
That is a tectonic shift. So we want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. If science fiction completely failed to predict how we'd interact with statistical language models today, what everyday piece of technology in your life right now is quietly evolving into the invisible infrastructure of tomorrow? What is the Viking tech of the 2030s hiding in plain sight?
Keep your vibe in check and your portfolio hedged. We'll see you on the wire.